Welcome to my monthly segment on games that time forgot. If you are new to the channel, welcome. If you are a subscriber, welcome back. This month, I will be going over Fade to Black for the PC and the PlayStation. Back in the early 1990s, we gamers got to experience a really cool thinking shooters game by the name of Another World, aka Out of This World. This game had you thinking your way through various intense confrontations with these menacing alien beings. Along the way, you had one of those aliens actually helping you out throughout your escape. You both had to work as a team from time to time to get past certain obstacles. And it was a very unique gameplay experience among shooters and action games of that time. It was a revolutionary game for various reasons, plus it was a blast to play and praised by critics and gamers alike upon its arrival. It got a direct sequel called Heart of the Alien, which was released exclusively on the Sega CD. A year later, a spiritual successor by the name of Flashback would hit all major consoles upon its release. It used a revamped graphical look, but the thinking shooter style gameplay was still there, with some of the game's presentation and gameplay influenced by Out of This World. Although it did incorporate more action than the original two titles. I did a video a few months back about Flashback 2 being announced 30 years after the release of the original title in 1992. The promo states that it's a sequel, and that kind of stumped me because I knew that Flashback had a sequel that was released for the PC and the PlayStation back in 1995. So why was this title completely overlooked? Was it that bad? Will this new Flashback 2 completely redact Fade to Black from the series canon? Or is there more to the story? Sit back, grab a nice drink, and let's take a look at Fade to Black. In 1995, Delphine Software, the same developers who made Flashback, decided to create a fully 3D sequel to their hit title. The story takes place 50 years after the end of Flashback. After floating endlessly in space in suspended animation, the same alien beings from Part 1 find your capsule and imprison you for destroying their homeworld.
Hey human, welcome to the Luna Penitentiary, New Alcatraz. Easy to get in, impossible to escape, if you dare.
The lizard was mistaken. We can escape in a cargo vessel. I'm John O'Connor. I was gonna take you with me when I escape, but you were out cold. By the way, I left you a few items of interest. You better grab your gear and move out. Maintain radio silence and I'll contact you at the appropriate time.
Order to activate security drones. Prisoner 6 has escaped.
Eventually, you break out and have to traverse different areas in your quest to not only escape, but kill the morphs since they took over the Earth. The game is a fully 3D polygon-based action shooter. In the PlayStation version, the polygons are textured for a more vibrant and fleshed out look versus the PC port. Now, I started playing the PC version, as you can see here, but I switched to the PlayStation eventually, since I had issues with the sound not fully working. Some of the voices would not work as well, and for the most part the music was okay. I like the layout and the menus on the PC version over the PlayStation port. There are 13 stages in the game. Most will have you on foot, but sometimes you will be piloting a small craft through alien-like passageways. Unfortunately, the camera on these stages is just pure agony. The overall pacing of the game is slow, which I will get into more as the video progresses. Back in 1995, 3D environments were something new, and developers would constantly grapple on how to implement the best controls to navigate while still maintaining some sense of full control. The PC port offers controls via keyboard and mouse, as well as a gamepad. While initially allowing for a better overall experience, I was ultimately forced to play with a controller once I switched to the PlayStation port. The action button is designated to the square, something you will have to quickly master once you realize that a lot of the confrontations happen almost instantly, with aliens popping seemingly out of nowhere. Now, of course, with a name like Morphs, be prepared to have these bastards just appear from walls, the floor, and sometimes they're even disguised as actual objects. Now, pressing the button won't automatically shoot. You go into a slight crouched action stance. Then you can shoot. Sometimes I feel this control scheme could have benefited from skipping the action stance and gone straight to shooting. Now, I died many times when I wasn't fast enough in reacting to an enemy just appearing from just outside my peripheral view. The good thing is that you have unlimited ammo. The only thing to remember here is to always reload your clip, since another cause of many deaths is reloading in the middle of a quick firefight. The auto-aiming mechanic in this game is somewhat useless for the most part, because you're going to realize quickly enough that a lot of enemies like to strafe and move their positions really fast from side to side, meaning that you will have to recalibrate your aiming manually. Another small nuisance to the action aspect of the game is your movement. Conrad moves slow, and strafing is just as slow and useless for the most part, since you can't shoot and strafe at the same time. I found this feature to be useful when enemies are really far and you are using a corner or something else such as a object as your cover. Using it out in the open, it's pretty much useless since the enemies fire some heat-seeking bullets at you, and ducking doesn't help either unless you are taking cover. You can walk and press circle to do some light pacing, but I can't really call it running. It looks like me after I run a bit and get that pain on the side of my abdomen. The menu here on the PlayStation is very limited. You can cycle through the options here in the side to access items, other weapons, and messages. Using a sub-weapon like the mines has you using both the L1 and L2 in combination to activate them. Items and weapons are hidden in lockers and other objects around the playing field. Search all of them, since you will need to find not only keys to get past doors, but items needed to accomplish other tasks, such as using iridium here to power this machine. As you progress, the game will get trickier and more difficult, so save often. Now here is where I ran into a huge issue on the PlayStation port.
Game saved.
Bullshit. You know, I had made quite some progress in the game and I saved many times. And then I decided to turn the game off and come back maybe a few hours later, and this is what I saw right here. Nothing. I saw nothing. Where the hell were my save states at? So I thought maybe I did something wrong. Let me reset the game, and I tried again. Same thing. I lost all the progress that I made. Now, here's the thing. When the game right here is telling you that the game is saved, it's doing so to some sort of temporary file. You have to exit back to the main title, go to resume, click on save, then you tell the game to save it to the memory card. What goblin from the depths of hell came up with that idea? Let's put in the game a save option on the menu, have the player save the game, having the game tell the player it is saved, and not save it. In the game's defense, it does tell you right here that in order to save it, you have to exit to the title screen. Now, I kept ignoring this message, thinking it was just telling me not to shut off the console, while saving or something along those lines. Another annoying thing I found is that after you die, the game automatically sends you right back to the beginning of the stage, bypassing your last save state. That means you have to now enter the menu, go to load, select the load option you want, then you have to wait for it to load. Now this is after waiting for the death animation to have played out and loading the game back up to where it throws you to the beginning again. You know what, that goblin must have had a really good time coming up with this stuff. The levels are usually consisted of maze-like corridors filled with enemies pretty much everywhere. You are advised to proceed with caution at all time.
Stop. Stop.
Some levels are straightforward and others, like stage 3 here, will have you activating these roaming drones that you must follow one by one so that you may gain access to different doors. This is the only way too, so patience is needed for this game. And you know what? Get used to the screen right here, because you're going to be seeing a lot of it, and it's going to be burned into your subconscious after you play this game. If you are sensitive to epileptic seizures, you might want to skip this part right here, as the game over screens are just a quick FMV clip of you dying as it strobes relentlessly as it plays out. There are also some light puzzles here, but nothing to stump you for too long. Now, one of the most sought after things that you will come to require in this game is this right here, which I like to call the shield station. It will replenish your shield, which is basically your health. As long as you know where it is, you can always go back to it and replenish it after some heavy firefight. Since Conrad isn't exactly the most fit human in the galaxy, this backtracking will consume some time as you find yourself going back to it time and again. And again. And again. I would have really enjoyed had they made some kind of a remake for modern consoles, or at least some continuation to the storyline. The ending of the game has two possible scenarios. Obviously I'm not going to go over them here, but one of them leaves it open to a possible continuation of the story. Flashback 2 seems to disregard those endings, as it mentions the morphs once again are out to get Conrad. Since the game is delayed, I have no info as of now as to what storyline the new game will follow. The website makes it sound like it is a whole new storyline taking place after the original Flashback, so where does that leave this title right here? That's a shame. The game is actually good, even with all the issues that I mentioned. The levels are nicely done, even though the controls are sometimes infuriating, but this is what was available at that time. Overall, I would say try this game out if you require a slow-paced action shooter to keep you on your toes at all times, despite its overall slow gameplay style. It blends action with some nice light puzzling to create a nice title to add to your PC or PlayStation. Now, it might not have blown the lid off 3D at the time of its release, and it hasn't aged too well, but the storyline is intriguing enough that you might be interested to see it to its end. If you are a fan of this franchise, then you might or might not be aware that a sequel for Flashback was created all the way back in 2003 for the Game Boy Advance, called Flashback Legends. This one stays more tied to the original Flashback in that it uses 2D style graphics. A fully translated ROM is available online if anyone out there is interested, since the game was never released for consumers. So, this right here has been Fade to Black. Hope you all enjoyed this little trip back to 1995-96. Stay tuned as my beat 'em up hack and slash series continues on my next video. Keep watching, keep gaming, and as always, take care of yourselves.